Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live discussion. And also, we understand it's going to be live on Zoom as well on firefighter cancer actions to reduce risk. I'm Brian McQueen. I'm a member of the National Volunteer Fire Council as a director, and I sit on their executive committee. And I represent the state of New York as their director, past chief of the Whitesboro Volunteer Fire Department in Whitesboro, New York, currently serving in their training division. Cancer has become the leading health threat facing firefighters, leading the way to firefighters' deaths, to both career and volunteer. With the alarming rate of cancer, and we've read a lot about it over the last few months in the fire service, January has been designated as Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month by the IAFF, Firefighter Cancer Support Network, and the support by the National Volunteer Fire Council. It is a joint effort to educate responders of their risk and how to reduce those risks. I'm joined by subject matter experts and good friends of mine from their Firefighter Cancer Support Network, who is a founding partner of the Awareness Month for our discussion on this very critical topic, and that's Brian Frieders. This is a subject that hits home for me, as well as our panelists have been diagnosed with occupational cancer. I was diagnosed with occupational cancer in 2013. On December 23rd. And last month, I was diagnosed again with occupational cancer, and I'll be undergoing treatments next week. But before we begin to log on, I'd like to take a few minutes for the introductions. First of all, I'd like to introduce a great friend of mine, Brian Frieders from the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. Brian, would you like to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your history?
Yeah, sure. Brian, thanks for having me. First of all, it's an honor to be here. There's so many important things to talk about today. One of the first things I'd just like to say is Brian, obviously, is a close friend. We are with you right by your side as you go through your next cancer journey. As you know, the Firefighter Cancer Support Network is right there with you every step of the way. Whatever we can do to provide help and assistance for you and your immediate family, we're right here for you. So my best wishes to you as you move forward with another successful journey through cancer. So my name is Brian Frieders. I am the retired fire chief from the Pasadena, California Fire Department and current member of the Williamson County, Tennessee Volunteer Fire Department. I served in the capacity of fire chief for about a year. I spent 30 years in fire and EMS prior to that. But my most proud moment in my career has been as the president of the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. This started in 2005, and I've been involved since it started. And we've really turned the corner as it relates to firefighters and cancer. We still have a lot of issues to deal with, but I'm very privileged to be here today. The NVFC has been a great friend of ours for many years. We appreciate their support and everything that they do. The volunteers, I believe, are grossly underrepresented in a lot of things and oftentimes overlooked. And for me, it's important to recognize the need to address those issues with our volunteer brothers and sisters and make sure that we're taking care of them. So thank you for having me today, and I'll pass it on to Russ Osgood.
Russ, you're next.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm Russ Osgood. I am currently the fire chief in Ogunquit, Maine, which is a small little community on the coast of Maine where I have 8 full-time personnel and a handful of volunteers. I came to the Firefighter Cancer Support Network in 2011 after suffering a loss of 2 young folks in my department. So this topic has been close to my heart for a long time, and I've done quite a bit of work with the Cancer Support Network around education and training, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have, and I hope that some folks will learn some stuff and understand that this risk that we get through our occupation or through our time as a firefighter can be mitigated, but it's something we need to pay attention to.
Thanks, and thanks for being with us today, Russ. Scott Jenny has joined us also. Scott?
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Scott Jenny. I am the California State Director for the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. I've been in the fire service now for 35 years, and I'll be retiring in exactly 6 days. And I also sit on the committee for the Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month for the FCSN, collaborating with the IAFF. I got involved with the Firefighter Cancer Support Network after a couple of colleagues of mine were diagnosed and passed away with occupational cancer, and opened my eyes to it. And the message and the vision that we have in supporting and helping our brothers and sisters in the fire service is something where I can give back to the fire service, where I had a fantastic career.
Thank you. Thank all three of you for being with us today. You know, the Firefighter Cancer Support Network is an absolutely outstanding support network. I'll never forget, you know, the box that I received with all of the pertinent information from Tony and Jerry here in New York, who just do an absolutely wonderful job. And then I just see this past weekend where they stuffed hundreds of boxes again in the Long Island area. And it's just a great support network, and people need to, you know it's there. They'll be knocking on your door. They'll walk alongside with you right along the trip. And, you know, we're just so glad that the Firefighter Cancer Support Network is there supporting firefighters both on the career and the volunteer side. So thank you all for being here today. Today's discussion will last approximately about an hour. We have some questions that our panelists have been presented with earlier. Our chat will be monitored by Matt Odom from the National Volunteer Fire Council, and he'll be sending along any questions that he might have for our panelists. I have some questions in front of me right now, so let's get the program started. Brian, we're going to start with you first. I remember Brian sitting next to Jim Seavey at the first National Firefighter Cancer Alliance meeting. I believe that was in Virginia, Maryland area, and listening to the studies that have gone out about it. And Jimmy and I looked at each other, both at that time we're diagnosed as occupational cancer people, and we're saying, oh my gosh, this is truly an epidemic. And then your famous speech that I use regularly now with the bugles on the collar, what are we here for? And sometimes we need to refresh that speech, and have people listen to it, because there's a lot of important meetings that, that go along with that. But can you share a little bit with those listening here today? What types of cancer are specifically in the fire service today? Why is this the case? Why is it all of a sudden blossoming over the last 7 or 8 years? What impact does it have, not just for our veteran firefighters, which seems to affect more, but how about our new recruits?
Yeah, it's a great question, Brian. And yeah, I do remember that meeting in DC in 2015, and the context of that speech was, if you're wearing bugles and you're not going to do anything about your people putting themselves in harm's way for no reason, then they might as well be toilet plungers. So I've always said that I wore 5 of them, which in my eyes, I thought that, I would at least have a clue what I was talking about. But even my department that I came from, oftentimes we would be the biggest culprits of some of this bad behavior. And, it really is, it's a cultural thing. The reason that we're seeing a higher amount of cancer in firefighters is because now we're paying attention to it. I'm convinced that the cancer epidemic in the fire service existed long before either one of our organizations started paying attention to it. It was just in 2005 when we started seeing and tracking how many people are actually dying of cancer that are also firefighters, and comparing that to the general population. Those numbers were alarming. So we needed to do something. And we recognized that there's got to be some sort of a nexus. There's got to be a proximate cause to all these firefighters that are young and old alike, male and female, coming down with cancer. So we started asking questions. We started looking at data. We started looking at numbers. We convened a conversation with a lot of high-powered folks that are in very prestigious positions in the fire service and in the research world. And they agreed that there's something there. And finally, in 2013, with the publication of the NIOSH study that indicated there is certainly a statistical significance with firefighters and cancer. And we see all different types of cancer. There was about 6 or 7 that Grace LeMasters identified during her meta-analysis in 2013 or 2006 rather. And that was a good starting point, because it really started to see and show, compared to the general population, firefighters were indeed becoming diagnosed much more than the general population. So it was interesting because firefighters are generally healthier than the average citizen. And so if we have a healthier group of people that are getting cancer at higher rates, there's something wrong. So as we kept digging into it, we started seeing that some of the toxins and the things that we're exposed to, just by virtue of our occupation, is leading us down the path of being exposed. Our turnout gear that we have was great at protecting us from the thermal implications of fire, but we didn't realize that at the boot interface with the pants, the coat interface with the pants, that those toxins that we're exposed to in our fires are getting onto our skin, and then we're absorbing into our skin. And the second problem is everybody thinks that when the fire's knocked down, that the SCBA should come off and we don't have to protect our lungs anymore. Well, we've proven that over and over again, that that's absolutely wrong. And that was one of our first recommendations. And I remember talking to Jim Seavey about this. I said, how oftentimes do you see in photographs and magazine articles from the trade journals, and this is long before social media, where you've got somebody inside doing an investigation on a fire that's still smoldering? I mean, that was just the culture. Or the photograph, the action photograph in the front of the magazine, a Firehouse magazine or Fire Engineering, was a firefighter with a melted helmet and filthy, dirty turnouts and a dirty face. That was some sort of a badge of courage. And what we realized is that kind of behavior is what's killing us. And so, and you've heard me say this before, our culture and our behavior is what's killing us. In addition to the other extenuating circumstances by virtue of the way that things are assembled, the products of combustion that we're exposed to, all of those things all put together the pieces of the puzzle that recognize that firefighting and cancer are hand in hand. And it's unfortunate. We used to say that 1 in 3 firefighters will get diagnosed with cancer at some point during their career. That number is way higher than that now. When you see more than 70% of the line of duty deaths on a memorial wall resulting from cancer, something's wrong. And we have to pay attention to this. So the crusade that we launched with you, the NVFC, with the I-Chiefs, with the International Association of Firefighters, we pushed hard about getting people trained, showing them the dangers of their behaviors, making those 11 or 12 recommendations to minimize your risk to cancer. And I think we were very successful collaboratively. But here we are, 8 years later, and we're starting to see those same photographs surge again. We're starting to see advertisers putting dirty faces and dirty turnouts on the front of their advertising materials. We're seeing firefighters on a regular basis acting stupid and doing stupid stuff, like not wearing your SCBA, like not washing your turnouts. And it just boggles the mind when we have shown everyone the dangers that are associated with this job, why they would still continue to act like idiots. And that's sort of my motivation behind this. You and I both know, and I think everybody in this call probably realizes and knows a lot of people that have died as a result of cancer. And until we start seeing those numbers drop, I'm going to be on the same soapbox and on the same tirade, because to me, it's personal. To me, it's about taking care of our brothers and sisters, which is what we all swore to do when we took that job. So it's a multifactorial issue, to steal one of the words that came out of the NIOSH study. Tom Hales uses that word all the time, and I love it, but it's a multifactorial issue. But it starts with the people that are doing the job. It starts with the firefighter who's in the recruit academy, or the fire chief who's sitting on his butt behind his desk realizing, hey, I got to do something about this. Inaction is what causes destruction. And if we're not going to take that and listen to that, then we have bigger problems ahead of us.
I totally agree with you. And what really was an alarming statistic also, Brian, which I grabbed out of that meeting 8 years ago, was we don't realize is that it off gases 72 hours after a fire.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So throwing that
That's
dirty gear in the back of your truck or in the back of your SUV, throwing your kids in the back of the car, taking them to a babysitter or school the next day, we're actually harming them. And this,
I think Joe Finn said it best, the Boston Fire Commissioner, in his video. Every time you take that SCBA off, you should be thinking about your family. Every single time you take that SCBA off your face, you should be thinking about your family, because they're going to lose you. It's not a question of if, it's when.
Yeah, and it's a sad case. We talked about the change in the culture, but I went to a structure fire 2 days ago, and I still see a leadership running around with dirty helmets on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if they don't want to do it, then why should I tell my 18, 19, 20-year-old firefighter that they have to do it as well? So, I'm starting to see that reversal coming, as you mentioned earlier, but, I fully agree with that. How about you, Scott?
Well, it's a problem in the fire service, and the fact that I believe we have an invincibility problem. And the invincibility problem that is existing is it's not going to happen to me. But Brian said it perfectly. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We as firefighters, and especially the firefighters coming on board nowadays, need to understand what the causal correlation of occupational cancer is in this fire service. we are not going to be able to eradicate cancer, but we can certainly take the measures to mitigate our risks and educate our people in awareness. And we're doing that with the Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month, which we're partnering with you on. There's all kinds of resources and materials, and we're asking every department here in January to look over that, do a safety stand down, look over all the free material that they can download, they can look at, and they can train their people and give the awareness to their people to be able to understand how to mitigate and reduce their exposures. It's so important, through action, awareness, and accountability is how we're going to affect change in the fire service, through our actions, leading by example. You talk about those leaders, running around with dirty helmets. That's unacceptable in this day and age. That should never be occurring. And those leaders need to have a come to Jesus talk. Someone needs to sit them down. And, I think our number one position that we can affect change culturally, because it's a culture problem within the organization, is at the company officer level. If your company officers, your senior members of your organization lead by example and take these necessary steps to reduce their exposures and to do everything they can to mitigate the problems associated with occupational cancer, others will lead and follow with them. And we'll start to make drastic change in the fire service nationwide.
Excellent. And you know what really is an alarming statistic too, when I'm starting to listen to it is, and it's funny, I just got a text from our first vice chair, Kevin Quinn, who says that Jimmy Seavey's son couldn't make it, but he supports everything that we do. And, he's being a DC firefighter himself. And, he supports the whole process that we're going through because he saw what his dad went through. So he just wanted me to make you people all aware of, he appreciates everything that the Firefighter Cancer Support Network has done. And what's an alarming statistic is that I think back 8 years ago, I think it was around 60 or 63% of those people on the wall, but now it's up to 70%. You know what I mean? So we still got some work to do, but we've made the in-ground work that we have made together as teams. No matter what name or what letters are on your logo, we've done it together and we feed off each other. And it's just been a total team effort. But I agree with you. How about you, Russ?
So, early in the conversation, I heard that this is not new, and it's not a new thing. This has been going on for years. If anyone that's a historian of fire service might remember the term, the red check of death for the New York Telephone Exchange fire. That's not there for an unknown reason. We know what the problem was. We know it was through the toxic exposure, right? So it's not new to us. It's been going on a long time. And we learned from those incidents that we should be wearing our SCBA more in fires. That hasn't changed either. It's actually become more important to our SCBA longer. So everybody's making great points around that, but one of the things I was at the fire department safety officers conference last week, and some of the stuff that we talked about was around fire investigators and the wildland urban interface, and how those jobs also are now seeing these the risks are increased, and that's not new either, of course. But the take home from it is that we need to work on what we know and tackle that stuff and not worry about what we don't know and leave that up to the researchers to find out. Let them do their research, let them figure out what we should be thinking about. Well, we know we should be wearing SCBA longer. We know we should be eating right. We know we should be taking showers as soon as we can after the fire. We say shower within the hour. We know we should be washing our gear and not wearing dirty gear. We know all those things, but yet are we doing them on a constant basis? Do we actually follow through every step of the way? And in some cases, I watch the news. I know in my area that no, that's not the case all the time. We have a long ways to go, and it all comes back to that culture change. I don't know how long does it take to make a change in the fire service. It takes a whole generation to make a change. We start talking about it, and chief officers come up through the ranks, and I know when I started in my city in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, we had the two young folks, Sarah and Jeff, that died from cancer young. And so it's something that I pay attention to. So now the people that work for me, I make them pay attention to it. And hopefully they'll keep doing that as we move along. But it's going to take years to get us all on board, right? Brian did a great job in California. Scott's doing a great job in California. And anywhere we go, we spread this message. But not everybody's doing that. You know, on the other side of it, there's folks that, you know, still think that, you know, putting water from the outside is like, you know, we can't absolutely never do that because we got to get inside. And I mean, it's just the science isn't there for it. And same thing with cancer. And you can talk cardiac as well, right? So cardiac and cancer, they play hand in hand. The stuff that you do to prevent cardiac disease is also helping us with reducing cancer risk. So, you know, it all plays together. Every bit of it plays together. And we need to follow the science and let the science show us what we need to do to protect ourselves and the public, frankly.
You know, you bring out, all three of you bring out some great points, and being leaders in the fire service as you are, you know, one of the biggest things that, you know, we tried to change, you know, we tried to talk about when we left there at DC was changing the culture. But when you say the word change the culture in a fire station, you're like Christ on the cross. You know what I mean? You can't do that. I mean, we have red trucks, you have lime green trucks. Transitional attack, no way. Just like you said, we got to get in there and put the fire out. But you know what? You got to follow the science. And some people just don't want to do that. You know, they just want to feel that badge of courage. I think we're going back to where that badge of courage was, that the dirtier you are, the more work you were doing. And it's really not that true at all. So, but we have this month in front of us. We have this fantastic month in front of us. And, you know, the founders of this Cancer Awareness Month, how are we going to use this? I see flyers put out. I see posters put out, the messages we're putting out through the live stream today. But what are some ways that we can really make an impact now and get back into that cycle of cancer is an issue? I know here in New York State on December 31st, I'm not sure if you're aware, our governor signed a bill to remove all the carcinogenic chemicals out of furniture and draperies and things like that, which is a great step for us. But what are some ways that we can do it as firefighters, as leaders in the fire service, to take this initiative in this month of January and go for it? Brian, I'll start right with you again.
Yeah, well, it goes to what you just talked about, people hearing the message, knowing what's right, and still not doing something about it. You know, the reason that we are sending out so much literature, and it really is sort of a relentless inculcation of details and information about firefighters and cancer that goes out this entire month. And it's annoying, and it's deliberately annoying because the information that's being sent out could save your life. And the comment that I have for people that are looking at what's going out right now is pay very close attention to it. And if you're afraid to stand up and try to make a change that's going to change the outcome of your life or your colleague's life, then perhaps you chose the wrong career. I don't have any respect for anyone who doesn't want to embrace the opportunity to change a culture that is killing our firefighters. So if you're not willing to step up and lead, and you're not willing to step up and say, hey, that's not okay, then the problem lies with you. And I say that, and not to be disrespectful to our listening audience, but it really is the message I hope I send to you, is that you, whether you've been there for 10 minutes or 10 years or 100 years, you make a tremendous difference. And the purpose of Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month is for 1 month a year to remind you of all the things that are available as far as resources go, all the statistics about firefighters and cancer. What are some things that you can do to help preserve your life, save your life, make a difference in your practice, to rethink the way that you do your job? And like you said, nobody wants to affect change, but you know, when the change does come, the people that affect that change are like, oh, why did we do this 20 years ago? Well, here we are again. Why didn't we do this 50 years ago? We have to pay attention to what's going on. We have to listen to what the research and the data says, and it all validates the fact that firefighting and cancer is a cultural problem, and we can fix that, and you can fix that, and you need to fix that.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm starting to reminisce at DC again, Brian, but outstanding.
You started it.
No,
you started it.
I loved it. Let me tell you something. That was a kick in my rear end to get this moving. So we made some great changes, and I appreciate having the opportunity to be there. And hopefully we can recycle this again and do it again. But how about you, Scott?
Well, I think that, obviously Brian hit the nail on the head on a lot of it, but for the Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month, it's in January. However, the resources are there for a whole year. So the resources that we put together are necessary tools in education for all firefighters to use to, one, to become aware of the problem, but two, to identify the steps that they need to change in their organization, which will lead to that culture change we keep talking about.
Yeah.
There's a number of PowerPoint presentations, there's a number of fact sheets, training briefs, a number of items that we have that are both on our web, that are up on our website, as well as the IAFF's website. And I believe you're putting them out, as well as the Lavender Ribbon Report that is up on your website and our website, which you guys have done a wonderful job doing. It outlines those steps over and over again of the needed steps we need to take to reduce and mitigate our exposures. Ultimately, as this message gets out every year, the data obviously changes from year to year. And as you talked about earlier, those numbers seem to be going up, and they've gone up, from 2002 to 47%. And now we're pushing up in the around 76% of the line of duty deaths are due to occupational cancer. So we need to ensure that everyone sees that message, that we need to change that culture. And by doing the simple things that are outlined on our website, on your website, and changing our operations, they have those tools available to them to train on it. And we ask that they do the safety stand down in January, but you know what? Ideally, those resources are up on our website all year long. So they can download a training brief and go over it with their crews, with their firehouse, however they want to do it. It's designed to be very simple for every individual to be able to get this information, vital information, to be able to help change that culture and to get that message out.
Absolutely. Russell, let's feed a little bit about what Brian and Scott was saying, and what are some of the practices that you're using in the state of Maine in your fire station to help reduce cancer amongst your firefighters?
So early on, I mean, the earliest steps that a lot of us have taken is reducing diesel exposure in our stations. Using some source capture, there's a bunch of names, right? Plymevent, Magnaflux, there's lots of brands, but we at the FCSM, we talk about source capture because that takes it directly out of the building, and away from the people. That's been a culprit for a long time in the fire service, diesel exhaust. Back even to the 80s, they were talking about that and putting in these systems. So that's one good place to start. I travel all over teaching, and I go to a lot of rural departments, and there's just no money. There's not a lot of funding for that stuff, so they don't have those. But that doesn't mean that you can't, leave the doors open a little longer or pull the truck out on the ramp instead of doing stuff inside. And, think of ways to make sure that you're not, putting too much into the air, and tools that you can use to remove it from your station, like leaving the door open for a little longer. That's one thing. Recently, a lot of places are getting extractors and gear dryers so we can actually effectively wash our gear and get that stuff off, so we're not wearing that dirty gear at all, or as little as possible. Keeping the dirty gear and stuff after a fire out of the cab of the truck, and bagging it, bringing it back and taking care of it correctly so you're not spreading the contaminants around. There's a great video from the University of Miami Sylvester Cancer Center that follows the exposure after a fire through a station and then home. And I think it rings so true for our call and volunteer folks that, transport their gear in their cars occasionally, or a lot of times, because that's how you end up going to a call, right? And when you see this young kid playing ball with a firefighter, and that those toxins that were transferred into the car that you can no longer see with your eye are being spread to our kids, that really says something that we need to follow this, because this isn't just about us, right? This is about our families too. a small study up in the Olympic Peninsula area shows that children of firefighters actually have a significantly higher rate of cancer than just the firefighters themselves. So we know that we're probably bringing this stuff home, and it's affecting us. So everything that we can do is a good thing, from, you know, deconning on the fire scene, or doing early decon, you know, washing before you eat, shower within the hour, you know, when you get back, or before you leave the station. You got to take care of yourself before you take care of your tools, right? You're the most important part of the fire department. Take care of yourself, then take care of your tools. Your Halligan's not going to get cancer because it's got some soot on it. You will. So that's the important things that you can do. And like Scott said, the resources on this, on the Cancer Awareness Month page it's all there for you. I mean, if you just go to those, have a training night, you know, 5 training nights, and go over each portion of that, or if you can learn who your state director is and have them come in and do a presentation for you from the FCSN, that's the best tool that we can give you to prevent you from getting cancer. Because once you get cancer, we have lots of stuff that we can offer, but the education is what we can give you now before you get it.
Without a doubt. There's no question about it. It's funny you mentioned that video. I was just on the phone on a Zoom call earlier with Alberto, who actually created that video. And I'll tell you, that if anybody watches that, that's an impact to know what you're bringing home and how it's being carried home. And if that doesn't wake you up, then I'm not sure we care too much about our family then. But it's a great video. There's no question about it. We had a question up in the chat that says, what are the most common types of cancer amongst firefighters today? Brian, you want to touch upon that?
Russ, you want to take that?
Yeah, that's it.
Russ, okay.
Yeah, sure. That's tough to say. The most common, you know, there's several really good studies out there, but the Daniels study kind of points its finger at like bladder cancer, intestine cancer, kidney cancer. If you think about how we take things into our body and how we excrete them, that's the track that we're seeing. So we'll breathe this stuff in, we get lung cancer. We don't wash our hands before we eat, and we're putting it into our mouth. You know, we get the pharynx cancers, and right down through the system, and out we go. So those are the ones that we see the most of: bladder, buccal, let's see here, intestine, kidney, liver, those types of things. Mesothelioma has been high in several studies, and that's, you know, directly from asbestos. We know that. I think everybody's seen a commercial about an attorney trying to go down the mesothelioma route. And then esophageal cancer is pretty big among firefighters in several different studies. And testicular cancer was pointed out in the Jillian study that's a significant risk to firefighters too. So there's there's like 18 that are really key to us. And if you think about it, in those cancers that you would look at as you know, either respiratory or ingestible, that's kind of where we see the big ones.
And you know what, it seems to me that I'm reading more and I'm hearing more of people at a younger age, in their 30s and their, you know, early 40s, that are coming down with occupational cancer.
Yep.
So it's not us old guys that have been there. I mean, it's these younger firefighters, because, you know, they're facing the same things that, you know, we face. But, you know, I mean, let's think of everything that's in a building today, you know, in the building construction today, and the amount of chemicals that we have in it that, you know, 30 years ago, we didn't have that in there.
Yeah,
so
that's a big part of it. Like 30 years ago, a lot of stuff was what they call legacy, right? Like wood and fibers, natural fibers. And that stuff also puts out a significant amount of risky toxins. But today, if you can find a piece of legit wood furniture in a home, you're doing pretty good. It's a lot of plastics, right? A lot of high-tech stuff. And unfortunately, the exposures that we see today versus the exposures we see 30 years ago, you know, maybe 10 fires would give you the same exposure that one fire will give you today. And I mean, that's just a number I'm grabbing, but that's the reality of it, is that today's exposures are much higher concentration than they were 30 years ago. So that's why we see younger guys getting it, is because in that time range, that's when they all started, right? A 40-year-old firefighter today started when plastics was really becoming a big part of the environment in our home. So if we don't do something now about it, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like in 30 more years.
Without
Right,
a
I'll
doubt.
just
And you,
say, one of the things that's, I think, is important to tie into what Russ just said about the products of combustion, and we said this earlier. Gavin Horn and his group at IFSI, they showed that there's more than 265 known carcinogens in an ordinary house fire. 265 known carcinogens. That's not what we don't know. And so it goes to what Russ says, you know, and it's not old guys and gals getting cancer. You know, we talked to a 33-year-old who's got a glioblastoma in his brain, been on the job for 7 years. You know, we talk to people, the average age is not 60, the average age is in 30s and 40s, and we're seeing a lot of that. And we're seeing a higher concentration of 30, 40, even younger 50-year-olds getting cancer. So this is not an old person's disease. And this was the argument when we first started this, is like, well, you know, everybody gets cancer. No, that's not the case. We're seeing a higher concentration of healthy workers getting these diabolical cancer diagnoses on a regular basis. So again, for all those that don't think this is an issue, you're out of your mind. And I'll just say one more thing, just to go along with the types of cancer. One of the biggest problems that the volunteer fire service has, and the career, but the volunteer more so, is the use of tobacco products. And you want to talk about being unpopular, and where I'm a volunteer firefighter right now, I would say that I am probably one of 10 out of 200 that don't use tobacco products in some way, shape, or form. When we know for a fact, unrefutable, that tobacco causes cancer.
#1 cause worldwide, by the way.
There's no doubt about it. So why on earth do we still allow firefighters to use tobacco? Why?
Right.
So it's right back to culture and behavior. You want to put a big wad of crap in your mouth and spit it out for the next 30 years, you pay the price. You're going to pay the price. There's no question of it's not a matter of if, it's when. So at what point in time are you going to come to your senses and realize that that habit, although it might be a real cool thing for you, it is killing you, period. And once again, every time you put a wad of crap in your mouth or pull out a cigarette, you should be thinking about your family.
without a doubt. And I believe there's more studies coming out. I know we talked about cigarettes and cigars and things along that line, but chewing tobacco, you know, and the increase in mouth cancer and throat cancer, you know, is just you know, on the rise. And you're right. You know, who are we thinking about, ourselves or our family? You know, I think that's very, very important. You know, let's focus a little bit about you know, are there some ways that firefighters or fire service leaders now can take this message? And what I'd like to see this message, I know it's on YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube later on this evening on the MBFC YouTube, but it's a great training tool for anybody that wants to take that and put it in their fire station, especially this month. You know, it's cold out here in New York. Why not sit in there? Let's watch us and listen to the way it's done. But what are some things that leaders can do now? Take this initiative. It's January 2022 and start making a proactive approach to beating cancer. What are some steps that they can do? A lot of new chiefs are taking over now. Here's their chance to make an impression. Because I'll be honest with you, the volunteer fire service, the numbers are not there like it used to be. You know, so I mean, we've got to start thinking of protecting ourselves. You know, we can recruit them, but we got to be able to retain them, and we want to retain a healthy firefighter. But who'd like to start in on that? Just tell me, what are some ways that a new leader that takes over that can start implementing cancer prevention education in their departments?
You know, I'll start on that. You know, I think, you know, I said it earlier, you know, through action, awareness, and accountability. Primarily actions, you know, we're taking those steps. We are leading by example as leaders. And if we lead by example, others will follow. Awareness, doing exactly what we're doing here. We're making others aware that there is an issue of occupational cancer in the fire service that's killing us. And we need to change that culture through that awareness training. And then accountability. We need to hold each other accountable. And I don't mean we need to pound each other over the head, but it's a matter of, hey, Russ, don't forget we got to do a gross decon after this fire, or we can't wear our bunker gear inside the firehouse because it's emitting these carcinogens. I mean, it's simple things of holding each other accountable and doing the right things, and starting at the awareness level, and then just keep on beating it and beating it and beating it and getting that message out to the masses. I think that's how we're going to change the culture of the fire service in regards to occupational cancer prevention. For now and for the future, because January Cancer Awareness Month is not going to go away. I think it's only going to get bigger each year because we're going to keep doing it.
Very good. Russ?
Yeah, you know, I think if we could get the chiefs to buy in and set policy for their departments, and it doesn't have to be difficult. Like, I mean, one thing that I know in my area, we have a lot of air monitoring policies where we look for a couple things. We look for hydrogen cyanide, we look for CO, and then we say, oh yeah, great, the air is clear because those are below the REL. Well, the fact is that we're only looking for two things. We're not looking for a lot of things. So get rid of that policy and institute a policy where you wear SCBA all the time. And yeah, it's tiring. I've been there. I don't want to wear my SCBA all through overhaul. Heck, I don't really even like overhaul. I mean, who does? But it's one of those things where we can just call more help, get more people. You know, we starve for help in my department. Our neighboring departments do the same thing because we have fewer fires. But if we start bringing our neighboring departments to our fires to help out with those tasks, and they bring us, now we are more engaged, maybe that recruits more people. I don't know, but maybe that's a good place to start, to think about, you know, we make these changes incrementally. But setting good policy and enforcing that is really important. And I wish that as a fire service, the culture change that we see around, I don't know, maybe we can use bailout bags as an example. You know, for the Father's Day fires where the guys perished, which was enormously tragic, right? Because they lacked bailout equipment. And the fire service embraced that and learned from it. And we have got bailout bags and tons of firefighters. You go to trainings all the time for firefighter safety around those tragic events that happen. And we learn those skills, we buy into them, and we do them, and everybody's on board with it. And that's great. But far more people are dying from cancer. And I don't see the buy-in as elevated as some of those other things. So if we could look at that at that way, you know, in my department in Portsmouth, we had two folks or a few more die from cancer, and we had one line of duty death in the entire time the department had been organized. But, you know, we've had a whole bunch of cancer deaths. So if we focus on what's killing us and use the training that's out there now, is a good place to start. And there's a ton of resources. Scott's done a great job putting stuff together with the IFF crew. You know, we went through months of preparing for this event, and there is a ton of resources there, a ton of fact sheets, a ton of, you know, training tips, and some really great presentations that are really easy to do on a cold night, like you say tonight, cold night in New York. It's cold here. What a great time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I got another question coming up from the chat. It says, for overhaul,
Yeah.
I have seen people using filters attached to their face piece. Is anyone using these, and any recommended brand or type?
There's
No.
no recommendations.
No, the answer is no.
No, there's no recommendations, but you know, I mean, yeah, you shouldn't, you really shouldn't, because the gases are still getting in through a lot of those. And until there's more research and some really good information on them, I mean, we're always recommending SCBA. It's the gold standard.
Right. And my philosophy is the same way. Why would you want to go ahead and do that when you already have a Scott pack on? What is it to change a bottle? You know
Just
what I
get a
mean?
couple-
You
get
already
more
have it
people.
on.
Get more people, rotate.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what mutual aid's for, correct?
Right.
Well, and just to dovetail into that, some people don't have the luxury of getting more people. Okay, well, then don't do overhaul. Take a break. There's no urgency to get overhaul done. Let it sit. The fire's out. You've mitigated the emergent need. Sit around. minimize the exposure. If you got to sit and wait, give somebody a chance and get through rehab, get them rehydrated, then put them back in and do overhaul. There's no urgency to do overhaul. Why are we in such a hurry to do overhaul all the time? I never understood that. The investigator is going to come in there and do their investigation. That doesn't, you don't hurry the investigator. So why are we hurrying overhaul? I mean, unless there's some sort of an issue with hidden fires you're concerned about during overhaul, maybe. But bottom line is there's 9 times out of 10, no urgency to do overhaul. So what are you in such a damn hurry for? Slow down. Right. And to answer your first question, Brian, about what do we do? What do fire service people do now to make a change? Be bold, step up. Don't be afraid. This is your life. There's no job worth your life. We have taken an oath of responsibility to our communities to provide fire and life safety. Part of that responsibility is taking care of yourself. So take care of yourself. That's the bottom line. And like I said, whether you've been there for 15 minutes or 15 years, you have a tremendous personal responsibility to make sure that you're acting in a manner that's safe. And we have proven to you statistically through data and culturally that wearing an SCBA from start to finish, including overhaul, including investigation, is the industry best practice. So do it. Clean your turnouts, take a shower. Don't wear your gear in the living quarters. Make sure you get a medical exam, which I'm sure is the next question coming up. Take care of yourself. Your communities rely on you to take care of yourself. So please do so.
Science and data doesn't lie. I mean, really, let's think about this, Brian. We go back to 8 years ago when the white paper came out, and the information that was in that white paper really, I think, was the motivation for us to continue to kick this whole thing off and continue to move along with it. And it was brought on, it was brought on by the chiefs, the IAFF, Firefighter Cancer Support Network, National Volunteer Fire Council, all joining on board saying, this is real, everybody. It's real. The data shows it. The science shows it. Be bold. I like that. That's good for a t-shirt for the Whitesboro Fire Department.
Just don't put my face on it. Nobody will buy it.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll buy one. I'd buy one.
There you go. Absolutely.
Hey, everybody needs a toilet seat cover, right?
Well, I didn't want to say that. But.
All right, Brian, let's talk a little bit about the firefighter, but we're starting to wind down. Let's talk a little bit about the Firefighter Cancer Support Network and its mission and some of the things that they have to offer out there. And what are some ways that people can, get motivated, get involved in using those resources?
Yeah, so the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, founded in 2005, the whole backstory. And really what we do is we provide that badge-to-badge support for someone who gets diagnosed with cancer or their immediate family. And what we do is we provide a mentor, someone who is a firefighter who has been diagnosed with a similar cancer and survived. We'll pair them up with you if you get diagnosed so that you have the opportunity to be kind of shepherded through your journey. And what that does is that allows you to communicate with someone who understands the firefighting culture, who understands what being a firefighter is. We're not in the business of asking for help. We are generally in the business of providing help. And so when the tables turned, that's a very uncomfortable time for a firefighter. So through our mentor network, and we've got about 220 mentors across the country and in Canada, we will be able to find someone who has survived the cancer you've been diagnosed with, generally speaking, and pair you up with them and help walk you through your journey. We've been told that in of itself provides the most incredible solace to someone who has been given this tragic diagnosis. The second thing we do is we provide them a toolbox. You referenced the toolbox earlier, and literally what it is a plastic toolbox that has file folders in it. It's got a business card holder. It's got pens. It's got pencils. It's got a notepad. It's got everything you need to take all of your materials, your lab results, your x-ray results, your MRI results, all the business cards from the facilities that you're going to be frequenting during your journey and your treatment, and keep them all in one place. All of your workers' compensation documents, all of your medical records, you stick it all in this toolbox in these file folders so you have access to it 100% of the time. Most importantly in that toolbox is our Survivor's Guide to Firefighting Cancer. That's a document that we published about 4 years ago. We're in our third version of it now, second or third version of it. And that's really, it's about a 265-page document that has information about the different types of cancer that you may have from our friends at the American Cancer Society, who is one of our partners. It has information about the caregivers and what they should expect. It has a section in there about questions you should ask your doctor when you're diagnosed, things you really don't think about when you go for your initial consultation, but it helps prompt you to think, hey, I should ask these questions because these are things you need to address throughout your journey. It gives you opportunities to journal and chronicle during your treatments, during your cancer survivorship, and helps you kind of remember and kind of recall how you're feeling, compare it to how you were feeling when you first got diagnosed. And interlaced throughout this document, throughout this book, is our motivational quotes. They're quotes from our survivors that really kind of keep you up and take you out of the trip to Cancer Island that you're probably going on. I just can't tell you how fantastic that publication is. Every firehouse should have one. And that was a collaborative effort from all of our team members across the country who contributed to that. It's just a fantastic document for any person who's been diagnosed with cancer. We also provide education awareness. As you know, we've talked about it in this call. We published the white paper in 2013, and you said this, it was a game changer. That's what changed everything. Everybody started paying attention, like, oh, and you know, the IFF, the NVFC, the ICHES, we'd all done work in the background on this, but that white paper articulated very clearly what the issues were and what we need to do. And those original 11 recommendations that we made in that white paper have been they've been recharacterized, they've been utilized, they've been plagiarized, they've been every otherized, and that's fantastic. We love that because we intended that information to be used across the fire service. I think Phoenix calls them the Dirty Dozen. They added one and called the Dirty Dozen. I think you called it something else. I mean, those recommendations were developed by that group that did that white paper with input from all over the country, and that's really transcended almost 9 years now is when that paper was published 9 years ago. So we are big on education awareness. Russ Osgood is our Director of Training, Development, and Research. He conducts the Train the Trainer courses across the country. We have a program that will bring to your department that will allow you to become a trainer for the FCSN so you can train your people on firefighter cancer education awareness. We update that course at least once a year, sometimes twice, depending on the statistics and the science that comes out. Russ does a great job with his team in doing that. Scott Jennings, our internal trainer for all of our folks within the FCSN to keep them updated. We really are here for firefighters that get diagnosed so that they don't feel alone. We want to do everything we can to help that journey become a little bit easier, despite some of the odds that they may be facing.
That's outstanding. And I'm going to tell you a little story about the plastic tub. So my wife calls it the tub. You know, it was funny. We used it religiously. I spent 7 weeks at Sloan in New York City. We had to live there for 7 weeks. And every day she pulled out that book. And every time I went for the radiation treatments, she pulled it out and jotted everything down from the doctors. We still have it. And when I was just re-diagnosed with the melanoma, she pulls it back out again. So it's a tool that's definitely worthwhile. And I'm telling you something, it's been a lifesaver for me. And I appreciate that. And
and it's free. And here's the best part
right.
about it. Everybody asks, well, how much does this cost? It's nothing. It's absolutely free. But what we need is your help because those things cost money and we do our best to fundraise. And as you know, fundraising is not an easy thing to do. And we're at a point where our organization needs your financial help is very much appreciated so we can continue with our efforts. We've done a lot of great work. We continue to do great work. Our organization is more than 350 people strong across the country and in Canada. So if you have the desire to help, if you go to our website, www.fcsn.net, there's a donate button. If you can help, $5, $500, $5 million. We'd really appreciate any donation you can make to help facilitate the building and the supplies and the delivery of the mentors and the toolboxes for our firefighters.
that's awesome. Every penny is definitely worth it. There's no question about it, Brian. You hit the nail right on the head. All right, how about you, Russ? We'll go to you next. Any closing comments?
You're on mute.
He's unmuted.
I'm not sure how that happened. I got muted. It's pretty rare for me. Yeah, the FCSN is a wonderful program. You know, when I talk about Sarah and Jeff a lot because they meant a lot to me, and I didn't know about the FCSN when they went through their cancer. We did a whole bunch of things within our department that, you know, kind of supported them as best we could, but we were missing something, and what we were missing is what the FCSN offers. So it's really there. There's a lot you can do to support the folks in your department, but the peer-to-peer support, the folks that, I was the New Hampshire State Director for a while, the folks that I put through this program, the ones I talked to about it, they all rave about the peer-to-peer support and how important it is to have somebody to bounce things off of. I mean, as a firefighter, I always like to have, another firefighter to run things by or learn something from. And when you are diagnosed with cancer, I think you probably feel like you're kind of out on an island by yourself. And to have another firefighter there to kind of talk to has got to be comforting. So and again, it's free. It doesn't cost a penny, and it's a phone call or go to the website and just send us a message and we'll get somebody with you. And look, if you don't want to, if you just want the toolkit, and we'll try to assign you somebody. If you don't want to talk to them, you don't have to. There's no pressure on our part. Like we want to get you what you need if you need it, and help you in any way we can. So yeah, we definitely want you to reach out.
I think that's great. And, I think so offline, I think I'd like to, get a hold of you in the future and see if maybe we can get you here to Central New York area and do a little training for those people in this area, which we've never had before.
Yep, we can do that.
I think that would be great. I appreciate it. Scott?
I just want to first off, thank you for having us, Brian. It's so refreshing for us to collaborate and be able to get that message out. But more importantly, how great the Firefighter Cancer Support Network is. Like I said, this is my way of giving back to the fire service. I was a volunteer firefighter during my tenure in the last 35 years. And we need to do all we can to support each other, and especially when it comes to occupational cancer. And if anybody needs any help, any awareness, please reach out to us. We're here and we respond very quickly. I can't say enough about how awesome this organization is and how awesome it is to collaborate with you and your organization. This is fantastic.
Yeah. And I just want to say, on a personal note, to say I love each one of you is an understatement. So just so you each know that you guys mean the world to me. And I want to thank our panelists, Brian Frieder, Scott Jenny, and Russell Osgood, as well as everyone who joined us today. This will be put up on our MVFC YouTube. So it will be a great training experience for anybody that wants to show this in their fire station. I think it's a great thing to do for this month. But again, Occupational Cancer Month just can't be in January. It's got to be a 12-month program. I also want to thank the National Volunteer Fire Council for organizing today's discussion. The MVFC is the leading nonprofit membership association representing the interest of the volunteer fire, EMS, and rescue services. They provide resources, training, and advocacy for programs for the volunteer fire and emergency services. We have resources on our page, as well as the Firefighter Cancer Support Network has a wealth of resources. The IAFF, the FRCE, they all have resources in there. Go for it. They're free. I mean, why not do it? Again, we'll include this video description again on the YouTube tonight. We appreciate you all being here with us for the Facebook Live. Stay safe. And again, practice great occupational cancer education in your stations today. Thank you all.
Thank you.